Okay, so this is going to be part 2 in the AreaMapper tutorial for version 1.08. In the last video, I showed you guys just the basic user interface, but we hadn't created an area yet, and that actually locked out certain aspects of the user interface. So I'd like to go over those in this video. So I'm going to bring up the user interface with API area, and we're going to create a new area. So that's this button here. And again, it was in gray before on the border, which means that it was inactive, and now it's blue, which means it's in active mode. So this responds to the drawing tool. So I'm going to come over here. I recommend using the polygon line drawing tool just for a lot of reasons. But what I'm going to do is create a basic floor plan for the area. I'm going to have another video where I go into more depth on how this works and what the drawing features are. But right now I just really want to get an area so we can go over some of the user interface elements. Let's see. You can be a little bit complex with this stuff and it'll figure out what you're trying to do, or at least what it thinks you should be doing. So I drew basically a polygon. I'm going to hit escape to close it out, and it created an area. It had a little bit of trouble here. Sometimes that happens. There's a bug in Roll20, and I'm doing some things to respond to it. But if you see here, this wall is basically hidden. I'm going to click redraw, and usually that fixes it up. Okay, now this looks good. So we have an area, and what I'm going to do is go back to the main menu, and as you'll see now, these two buttons used to be grayed out, and now they're not. So we have an active area. That is the one we just created. This is the fact that it's active this is in an active state, so it's showing blue. If I click on this, it's now inactive, which means that basically the active area is just whichever area like you've delegated as the one that you're working on right now. Right now it's like we're not working on any. And as you can see, this button is now grayed out because we don't have an active area. List areas, though, brings up every area that we have. So right here, new area, 1, that's just the default name that was given to this area. If I activate it, and I go back to main menu, again, we have active area, and list areas actually looks a little different. This border means that the yellow is something where you click it once and it just takes you somewhere. The blue means there's something about it that is in an active state. So because this area is now active, if we click on it, it takes us there. But if we had other areas that were inactive, they would just have a yellow border. Let me just show you that again. I'm going to click on it, deactivate it, come back to list areas, and as you can see, it's just straight navigation now. It's not telling us that this is active. Okay. So like I said, this area got a default name of new area. I want to change that. So there's a little button here called rename. Usually when you click a button, it just happens. Or takes you to like another user interface where you can just click your way through and make any edits. Renaming is a little special. I'm not building a keyboard here. So if you click rename, it just gives you instructions on what to type in to rename your area. So API-area rename, and then we'll call this sample area. And as you can see, we are back into the user interface for editing this particular area, and it now has a name of sample area. And if we go to list areas, it says sample area again. Now, it explains this here in the text, but basically in parentheses here it says 1. What this means is that there's one instance of this area right now. So let's make another instance just to explain what this is. So we're on the start page right now. I'm going to go to Untitled, and I'm going to do Draw Instance. And on here it says I need to use the drawing tool to tell it where to put it. So I'm just going to say, put it somewhere around here. And it actually drew another copy of this instance. So this is different from the one on the start page. but basically everything that is managed by the script will actually be kept in sync between the two drawings. The reason that we have the ability to do multiple instances really has to do with future features that aren't built yet. But for instance, there might be like some convenience utility in having this where, if you're, maybe you have like a GM window where like, everything's lit up and like you're editing things behind the scenes, and it's, that way you can see what's happening without, changing the instance of the area that like the players are interacting with or something. Like I said, this is more, the reason this was built was really more for future features. But if you go to list areas, it now has that it knows that there are two instances. So let's talk about these other folders here. So basically, right now there are 0 hidden instances, there are 0 hidden areas, and 0 archived areas. So the difference between an area and an instance is an area is basically everything that the script knows about the area that you've built. An instance is just a drawing of that area. So I'm going to show you what that means. I'm going to hide this area, which actually deleted all the instances. See, both of these pages are blank now. And if I go to list areas, it shows that there are 0 drawn areas. So right now we're on like the drawn area list, but there's 1 hidden area. So if I click here, it's going to take us to the area list for hidden areas, and then drawn areas, and archived areas can be clicked to. It basically brings up this same page, but with, just if we say like we had 10 hidden areas, you'd see buttons for each area. This is just more of an organizational feature that like, it just doesn't take up your whole screen with every area that you have. So this is now hidden, which means there are no drawn instances. If I want to get it back to drawn, I just have to draw an instance. And now it is drawn. So if I hide it again, like I said, there's another state called archived. Archived is just a hidden area that's just showing up in the archive list instead of the hidden list. The idea is that you might have something that's hidden that you actually intend to be using pretty soon. Like maybe you're in like the middle of a game, and instead of switching players to different pages, you just hide the area and bring up a different one. Hidden is kind of more of an organizational feature that it just surfaces up the areas that you might want to display. But if you really want it further out of the way, then just archive it. So now that shows up in the archived folder. So to unarchive it, you just deactivate the archive state, and now it's hidden because it's not archived and there are no instances drawn. So there's one other thing that we can do, which is delete. So just as a safety measure, we have it that you have to archive something before you can delete it, and then when you delete it, it's gone. So we're back to here where we have no areas because I just deleted it, and that's how the system works. In another video, like I'll show you, a little bit more about how the drawing works and all that kind of stuff. But this is the basic way that you would navigate through your areas. So hopefully that helps out. Thanks.